This is StoryBeat with Steve Cuden, a podcast for the creative mind. StoryBeat explores how masters of creativity develop and produce brilliant works that people everywhere love and admire. So join us as we discover how talented creators find success in the worlds of imagination and entertainment. Here now is your host, Steve Cuden.
Thanks for joining us on StoryBeat. We're coming to you from the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. StoryBeat episodes are available at storybeat.net and on all the major podcast apps and platforms. If you like this episode, please take a moment to leave us a rating or review. And please subscribe to StoryBeat wherever you listen to podcasts. My guest today, Evette Vargas, is an award-winning writer, director, producer, and immersive storyteller. Named by the New York Times as an artist to watch, Evette has produced series for Amazon, MTV, Bravo, DirecTV, and interactive content for Fast and Furious, The Lord of the Rings trilogy, and Madonna. Evette executive produced, wrote, and directed her digital series Dark Prophet, starring Henry Rollins, which was in contention for 2 Emmys. She sold her drama series, Muses, to TNT Super Deluxe. Evette is also creating a drama series for MGM Television with Mark Guggenheim and Rosario Dawson serving as executive producers. She's developing a drama series for Entertainment One with President Peter Johnson and penning the Mix Master Mike feature biopic. And she wrote The Current War VR Experience, a companion piece for the film starring Benedict Cumberbatch. A staunch activist for inclusion and equity, Evette founded the Writers' Room 50/50 to mentor storytellers and to create opportunities for their next level success. A member of the Writers Guild of America, Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, and Producers Guild of America, she was born in the Bronx and learned to tell stories at the dinner table where the imagination ruled. For the record, Evette and I have known one another for many years, having met while attending graduate school at UCLA. So for me, this is truly a great joy to have as my guest on StoryBeat today, my friend, the exceptionally talented Evette Vargas. Evette, welcome to the show.
Steve, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Wow.
I'm honored. I'm smiling from ear to ear, and you are quite the host, and I'm also proud and honored to call you my friend.
Well, the pleasure today is all mine. Trust me. And yes, it's good to be your friend as well. So let's go all the way back to your roots, all the way back to the beginning. What was it about learning to tell stories at the dinner table that ultimately led you to pursue a life as a writer, producer, director, and so on, and not, say, a journalist or a novelist? Why did you wind up in, the cinematic arts?
Yes. Well, thank you for that question. Well, quite simply, Steve, I have been an artist my entire life. I grew up drawing, painting, and writing. And interestingly enough, in my family, I grew up with 3 brothers: the lover, the fighter, the jock, and and I am the artist. I am the artist in between. So I always knew that I was going to pursue some kind of creative endeavor, some kind of just creative expressions professionally, because it was just what I had always done. But interestingly enough, what happened, because I grew up drawing and painting and writing, it was very easy for me to be inspired by the artwork that I was creating to write stories about it, and just escape through my imagination between the imagery and the words on the page, and then vice versa with stories that I was writing, then to go and literally to draw images of also what I saw. So that synergy of visual storytelling, the word and the visual, was just what I had always done. So it really was a natural evolution, But what my first endeavor in terms of art school, I started my first artistic education was at FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology,
Right.
In New York City. And I studied design, fashion design, graphic design, and I loved all of that. But I had this yearning, this yearning, burning desire to tell stories. So I ended up then transferring to NYU Tisch, to School of the Arts for film. And that's literally where I was able to really bring together my artistic ability with my writing ability. It all really came together for me there.
So I guess I didn't know this, that you had gone to NYU Tisch prior to UCLA. I knew, obviously you'd gone to undergraduate school somewhere, and I guess you and I never talked about it. You actually were a cinema major in undergraduate school.
Yeah, it was. I was a film and television major. My focus was on directing and writing.
Got it. Okay, so when you went to UCLA to get your MFA in screenwriting, that was taking what you already knew and expanding it out much further then.
Yes, and why I actually chose to go to UCLA was because they had, as you know, Steve, they had a 2-year concentration called the showrunner track.
Right.
Because I really wanted to study television. That's why I ended up going to UCLA. But as you know, the only way at the time to get to the showrunner track was through the screenwriting discipline, through that program.
Sure. So the showrunning track, which really is about being more of a producer than a writer, though there's a lot of writing to it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was both. It was both in in the curriculum, that 2-year curriculum. Which the first year had the focus on comedy, or half-hour comedies, and the second year with 1-hour drama. It was both. I would say it was equal parts writing and producing television. So it really was the writer producer of a television series.
So were you in Fred Rubin's class?
Yes, I was.
So
yes,
Fred has been a recent guest on this very podcast.
Okay.
So those of you that are listening, for the listeners out there, if you want to hear the person who really taught the comedy part of the showrunner's track at UCLA, that's Fred Rubin. You can catch that on StoryBeat as well. All right. So who were your early filmmaking heroes? Who did you look to as your inspirations?
Yeah. Well, there certainly were many, but I grew up in New York, as you mentioned. I was born in the Bronx. And then my family moved to a New Jersey suburb where by the way, we were the only Latinos in the entire county. Yeah, so we can certainly speak about all of those adventures. But in terms of my early heroes, they were the New York filmmakers. Those were the heroes that I really looked up to. I understood and aspired to. So definitely, of course, Martin Scorsese. As a filmmaker, Spike Lee, those were certainly some at the very top.
Well, those are pretty good models to aspire to, that is for sure. All right, so let's go through a bit of your process. Obviously, you're filled with all sorts of experiences and you have all sorts of things happening for you at all times. Where do you go to look for ideas, or do they just come to you?
I will tell you that for the most part, ideas, they really do come to me. And oftentimes they come to me in my sleep, in my dreams. Steve, I literally dream movies.
Wow.
And yeah. And it's not just a one-off. It's not as if I just have that dream once. That narrative will continue over various dreams.
Well, I'm envious. I cannot remember my dreams for the life of me. So you're actually telling stories in your head while you're sleeping.
Absolutely. With characters. I am not always in my dreams, by the way. Literally, these are movies that are unfolding just before, just in my imagination, which I can see in my sleep. And so I have both a notebook that I keep by my bed, as well as just my phone with voice memo, the voice memo app. Sure. That I'll just wake up and quickly just recite what I have seen in my dreams into voice memo, or if I'm awake enough, I'll jot down just some details so that I don't forget them. I literally just had this experience last week where it was, I didn't realize it was the second part of a dream that I had. I guess, was it, it may have been earlier this year that I had the first part. And then about 2 weeks ago, it was last week. I literally dreamt the second part of that movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's when I realized it's like, okay, yes, there's a really interesting idea. And the second part that I dreamt was it was the reveal. It was the surprise reveal, in fact. So it was about, I don't know, I guess I woke up about 3:30 in the morning or so. I ran to my computer and jotted down the idea.
And would you say that when you're dreaming whole stories at a time, fully blown characters, or do things come to you slowly? Do they develop?
Sometimes it's fully blown characters with entire scenarios, and then other times it's just bits and pieces that are part of the same film, for lack of a better term. That's the same film, but I'm seeing it in parts. I'm dreaming it in parts.
Interesting. So, all right. So you then, if you have this idea and it's come to you and you sort of have it figured out in your head, I would say easily in the sense that it's coming to you. You don't have to work too hard to say, here's the kernel of an idea. It's already there. What do you do? Do you start to develop characters first, or do you develop plots first, or do they come at the same time?
I would say what I start to jot down first is probably the concept that has come to me, because that is digestible.
In the form of a log line, or how do you do it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily a formal log line, but yes, in terms of what the idea is, what the twist is.
A broad concept of what it is.
Correct. I'll jot that down so that I don't forget that the concept. And then from there, I usually just start identifying the characters that I saw. And then I will, then the third part is taking those characters and then writing the plot that I dreamt.
So what is your character development methodology? What do you do? Do you have any kind of a system?
Absolutely. I mean, yes, because everything for me it comes from character. Plot and character for me are one and the same. They are synonymous. For me, it always comes back to what the character wants. Why can't they have it? What are they doing to get it? And what happens, what is at stake, right? What are they trying to prevent from happening by pursuing their goal, what they want, and those are the stakes. So with that is the story unfolding. Once for myself, once I know what my character wants and why can't they have it, which is the conflict that they're facing. The conflict, the escalations of the conflict, the intensity, the twists, turns, the surprises, all of that opposition that the character is facing. Clearly that's what makes for a strong plot, strong narrative, strong desire and drive that the character, my characters want to fight through to ultimately achieve their goal. But for me, the magic, I guess the magic sauce is what are they doing to get it in the face of this opposition, in the face of this conflict, and what are they doing to get it? That's the story. That's literally
as we were certainly told repeatedly at UCLA, conflict equals desire plus an obstacle. So you want something and there's something in the way. How do you overcome it?
And how you overcome it is the story. That's the story unfolding. Seeing the character attempt to overcome the conflict. That is the story that we're seeing between the choices that they make, the dialogue that they speak, and the actions that they take. That's what we're seeing. That is the story unfolding.
So that is the definition of drama versus melodrama. Drama is that the characters drive the plot. Melodrama is the plot drives the characters. And it's always better when it's the characters driving the plot.
Absolutely.
Always more powerful for the audience. That's, I think.
Yeah, I agree. More powerful for the audience, more powerful for the journey. It just raises the stakes and the emotionality on every aspect of the story. So, so for me, character and plot really are one and the same. And, it's symmetry, right? It's just a relationship. They are not separate. They are not two separate things. They are married together.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, again, as the characters pursuing their goal and they're facing opposition, and the actions that they are taking, what they're doing in spite of this opposition that they're facing to relentlessly pursue their goal. That is the story that is unfolding in front of our eyes. That is the movie. That is the episode. And any medium, that is the story.
And that's what the audiences of the world, not just in the United States, but around the world, that's what they all want.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, good. So all right, so are you developing then plot at the same time? So what I'm trying to get at is you're not separating it out and going, oh, I've got to figure out all these characters first, or are you? And then are you then saying, okay, now I'm going to put these characters into the cauldron and see what happens, and then I'll develop the plot from that? Is that how you're operating?
I would say, it's a bit more systematic, I would say, because I do a series of passes looking at specific beats, more moments, just major turning points.
You actually start to see the major turning points first.
Correct. Absolutely. I look at the story arc and the character arc. That's where I begin, Steve, to actually identify what my story is. Cool. I really think about where my character is going to be with this overall arc, this overall journey that the character is on, with this marriage of both story and character. Where their arc, what are those major turning points within the story arc and their character arc in general. So if my character begins, at one point, where do I see them ending? Like where do I see them ending? And what are those major turning points along the way? Mm-hmm. That's going to get them there.
Story milestones, things that you're going to hit to get them to their ultimate resolution of the goal set early on at the inciting incident, which is, pretty standard storytelling structure that pretty much every single story that we think of as memorable and popular follows.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that I would say is that all of those milestones, those story beats, I'm looking at them from the point of view of the character, though. It's not necessarily a fill in the blank, right, kind of plot beat. It's all coming from character and literally based on the journey that I want to set my character on. So I look at the story arc, which is of course steeped in the character. I'll look at that first. I'll identify the arc, the journey of that story, and then I'll dive deeper, more on the micro level, in terms of who are these characters, what is this world that they are going to be in conflict with, who are the characters around them that are going to constantly test my characters, and literally represent, who my character represents, what their character defining trait is, what their need is, who are the cast of characters that I need to create, develop around my main character, so that while my main character, my protagonist, is on this journey, there's a host of other characters that are literally a foil for my main character along the way. And also why, these other characters are important is because for the most part, no single character, goes on any journey alone. There's usually at least someone else along with along with the character. And it's and Steve, it's why we watch for these character relationships, we watch for these character dynamics. So so these other characters around the protagonist are incredibly important because they are also on that journey, challenging and supporting the protagonist every step along the way.
And sometimes in conflict, which helps that journey as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So are you an outliner?
I am an outliner. But I have really streamlined my outlining process. I for the most part, I really focus on, again, these major milestones, these beats, those major beats, and it's just a bullet point in a sentence. I will tell you,
Mm-hmm.
It's really been simplified. And then after I identify the overall story arc of the episode or the film, and then also these 10 or so major turning points, these major milestones, these major beats. Then in terms of the beats in between, I really look at each beat and then identify the midpoint between those two beats. And then going even more macro, the midpoint then between two beats that I just the two beats that the midpoint of the two beats that I just identified. So I just keep diving deeper and deeper and deeper in terms of how do I get to the next step in an organic way, looking at absolutely following the arc.
Are you all right, so now you have an outline, you have some kind of a beat outline basically,
Right.
and you know what your structure of the story is going to be. You have an idea in your head about who your characters are and what their what's going to happen, what their goals are, or
Right.
goal, ultimate super objective. Are you a purge draft person? Do you like to write your first draft really fast, or you take it slow?
It depends on how much time I have. It's so true. It really depends on how
deadlines are a magic thing, aren't they?
They really, really are. I mean, sometimes no matter what, you just have to get through it to turn something in. But yes, I mean, I definitely believe in the value of getting through it. But with getting through it, I look at each act at a time. I really do focus on the beats of that particular act, the scene. Something else that's also critical, to my process, and I've really, really learned to lean into this, is to write what is personal. Really with every character and their journey, to integrate as much of myself as possible. Steve, from my own life. First of all, I think it's what the reader and the audience really connects with. And this is, and these are our strengths as writers, as storytellers, is really, really utilizing our life, our experience, our point of view, our voice, of course, voice, but it's really writing these personal moments that we have lived, and using them also as inspiration, and also because we have lived these moments, we have experienced those emotions ourselves, therefore we can get them on the page. So that is a pass, that's a layer. I'm also just even in terms of the initial beats that I mentioned, at the end, my beats for outlining, I am absolutely bringing in, these personal moments from my life.
When you're writing a script and you don't have a green light, which is probably most of the time, you don't have a green light yet, and you don't know where the script is going to go beyond your having written it. That is to say, you're not attached to anything beyond writing it, and you don't have anyone attached to writing it. Are you in your mind's eye thinking about directing as you're writing, or are you just worried about storytelling?
I'm always thinking about the directing of it all, because I am a director as you know, and also given my background of growing up drawing, painting, and writing, I see everything in my mind.
You're actually envisioning scenes as you're writing. You're seeing
absolutely. I'm seeing them in my mind. in my imagination. So I'm writing what I'm writing what I'm seeing, and also I am bringing to the surface the emotion, the emotionality of the character in what I'm seeing, and bringing that to the page.
I assume, like most of us, you're a rewriter, you don't turn in a very first purge draft. You have to revise and revise to get it to the point where you're comfortable enough to hand it off to somebody. Yes?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So how many drafts would you say you typically do before you turn in a first draft?
Every project is different.
Yes. I can tell you, typically for me, it's between 10 and 15 drafts before I think to myself, okay, this is good enough to show to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's all, again, how much time we have. It's certainly at least five. It's at least 5 drafts for me, at least 5 drafts. I would say, I mean, it's probably on average, I would say probably about 10 drafts. And before I actually, give it to somebody, it's not just anybody. It's my inner circle, my inner trusted circle, that I will share it with them.
What does that mean for the listeners who don't know? What do you mean by your inner trusted circle?
Sure. So these are other writers, other just professionals in the industry that I will send my first draft, which I've written several drafts on, but I will send them what I would call at that point a first draft to these friends, to these trusted advisors, relationships that I've established over the years, for notes. So that's my inner trusted brain trust.
And I'm just curious, do you ever feel like you're relying on them in a way that's abusive, as when I say abusive, as in you're using them too much and you feel like, oh, I can't give another script to these folks? Or do you always feel comfortable that they're going to give you feedback no matter what?
I always feel comfortable that they're going to give me feedback no matter what.
That's a great thing to have. And not everybody has it, because sometimes people will feel like, oh, I've just given this past 2 years, I've given 3 scripts to this particular person, and now I'm abusing my friendship with them rather than relying on them to do service for you. And so it's great when you have people like that in your life. That's really an outstanding thing. Let's talk about pitching for a moment. When you go to pitch a story to somebody, whether you have a completed script or not, do you have any particular techniques for pitching? Do you have any way that you go in? Do you have an attitude toward it? Do you have a preparation technique?
Yes, yes, and yes. Yes, yes, and yes to all of your questions. So I absolutely have a pitching technique. I absolutely go in feeling extremely confident, because I have excuse my language, worked my ass off on this pitch, and I'm bringing I mean, for myself, in terms of the mindset, I'm always thinking that I am bringing the buyer a gift. I am bringing a buyer a gift. Yeah.
A great attitude that, by the way, on a recent episode of StoryBeat, Bryan Cranston says the exact same thing. When you go into audition, you want to think of yourself as bringing something to them for them to use. It's for them. It's not for you.
Correct. Yeah.
That's a great attitude.
Well, great. And thank you. And hey, I mean, wonderful to be in the same company as Bryan Cranston.
It's good company.
Yes. 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 Right. So, so I do the work, Steve. Pitching is an art form, as you know, and I absolutely have a structure. I have a process to writing the script of my pitch, which is the script for myself, which is written in conversational. I am literally telling the story of my story, and that's my my point of view when I am writing the pitch, and then I also design a pitch deck, visuals to support my verbal pitch, which I deliver, of course, the verbal pitch to.
What is a pitch deck?
Okay, sure. So a pitch deck, what that is, it's a presentation deck. Is these are visuals that they personify. They personify the world, the characters, the tone, the imagery of my series, um, which I am sharing verbally with the buyer, right? Because we all like, for myself anyway, my process is that I will write the script of my pitch, so it's literally a document, a pitch document, which is my personal script, which I memorize, I internalize, and then when I present my pitch to a buyer, I am just verbally having a first person conversation with the buyer about my show. It's absolutely conversational. And then the images which I project, I mean, now the pitching is done on Zoom during these days of COVID. So I'm sharing my my screen with the buyer. But in the old days, pre-COVID, I would literally present these images in conference rooms. I would project my deck, my presentation deck, on flat screens, and those images literally fill in. They add texture, they add visuals, they add tone, style, just images, important images that show what your story looks like and supports. Those images support the verbal pitch that you are sharing with the buyer.
This is really great advice for people that are learning how to pitch. That what it amounts to, correct me if I'm wrong, what it amounts to is frequently you're pitching to people who may not have the ability to envision what you're selling verbally, and that when you can give them an image, suddenly they can see it, which is why, by the way, so many movies today are made from graphic novels, because they can see what the movie style, as you say, and tone are going to be all about. Am I correct in that?
You're absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. It basically allows, or it affords the buyer the opportunity to really listen, and the images are filling also their imagination, right? I mean, the images are actually allowing the buyer into my vision.
Yes.
Of the series.
That's the key, is that you're allowing them into what you're envisioning, as opposed to you, the writer, relying on them to envision something that maybe would be different than what you're thinking.
Correct.
So this way you're actually showing them, rather than telling. Well, of course, that's the old Hollywood maxim anyway, show, don't tell. But nevertheless, you're actually demonstrating visually something, so that you're not relying on someone who may or may not have a good ability to envision from words to pictures.
Correct.
I think that's really excellent advice for anyone that's starting out and thinking about how do you pitch. You have to be careful about it. I would think, on a feature film, you don't want to come in with a huge visual imagery deck of some kind. You want maybe one or two images just to give them an idea. But on a series, you definitely want to have that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with features, oftentimes what's done with pitching features is there is a teaser or a trailer or some kind of like a rip-o-matic, which is created to literally represent the feature in a trailer format, right? So it's video. It's it's video that will give the buyer, the producer, whomever you're pitching to, an idea again of what is the vision of this film.
It's a little less than a sizzle reel, yes?
Absolutely, yeah. It's usually anywhere between 1 to 2 minutes long at the most, at the most. And it's just a wonderful, it's a taste. It's a short little proof of concept, and that's become commonplace with pitching features. You certainly can use those for pitching television series as well. It's definitely made its way into television, but it's more commonly used for pitching feature films.
That's fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about Dark Prophet.
Sure.
Uh, so you created that series, you developed it, you produced it, you directed it. You're sort of the chief cook and bottle washer on that series. All right, what did you do in the very beginning to get Dark Prophet off the ground? How long did it take you to develop it in the first place?
Sure, sure. Well,
And
interestingly
I
enough,
tell you what, let's back up and tell the audience what Dark Prophet is for those who haven't seen it.
sure. Yes. So it's actually, it's a, it was a digital series, a web series, um, that I developed in 2012. And interestingly enough, Steve, it was something that I was working on while I was a, a grad student at UCLA.
Mm,
But how it all came to be initially, the inciting incident of Dark Prophet was that NYU Tisch, they have a thriving alumni here in Los Angeles and all over all over the world. But certainly in Los Angeles, an incredibly active group, and they have their own series of programs for alumni. And that particular year, they were offering a digital series lab for alumni, and it was a 6-month commitment where the participants basically they developed and produced 3 episodes of a web series. So so I basically ended up winning that particular initiative and competition.
nice, nice.
Thank you, thank you. And the judges were NBC Universal Television executives who really loved the show, and that led to me getting a production grant from NBC Universal. So I kept making episodes, and then Sundance had heard about me and the show, and I literally premiered at Sundance in 2014 with the series, and through one of their efforts there. And then there were direct TV executives who actually saw the series at Sundance. And this was in 2014, I believe. And then the show ended up premiering on DirecTV. And it did really well there. And because it was this interactive, it was this digital series that then made the leap into traditional television. It was nominated for 2 Emmys in the interactive category.
Well, that's a wonderful bit of icing on the top of the cake, isn't it?
It was an incredible ride. Really a phenomenal year in 2014. That was literally how I became a member of the Television Academy at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And and by the way, I ended up losing to Game of Thrones, their digital efforts.
Oh, it's Dark Prophet or Game of Thrones. Well, so
Exactly, exactly.
you probably had a very similar budget on yours compared to their lunch budget.
Compared to their lunch budget. Exactly. Correct. Correct. But again, hey, it was wonderful to be in that company. And
Yeah, for sure.
and so I mean, I always say that I lost the Game of Thrones, but I can live with that. And and it was really this incredible experience and ride, which opened up a lot of doors and many opportunities.
No
For
doubt. No doubt, doing that and then being honored by being nominated, that should, open certain doors for sure.
exactly,
Yeah. All right.
absolutely.
So once you had a green light at the point where somebody said, "Yeah, let's go on this," you weren't funding it yourself, right? The beginning of it. Well,
No, I mean there was some.
you
Yeah,
funded the development of it, but then,
yes, exactly. Yeah, but as it went along, no, then there were other funding
all
resources.
right. So once you had that green light in place, that funding source, and so on, what were your first steps toward preparing to shoot it? What did you do? Did you storyboard the whole thing? What did you do?
Yes, well, and thankfully, I'm so grateful. I literally was introduced to an incredibly talented DP. And so we worked on the storyboarding, we worked on the shot listing, absolutely. I mean, and also as an executive producer, I mean, I had a hand in everything. I had a hand in casting. I had a hand in just the art of it all, especially with my art background, so really specifically how it looked. But I mean, Steve, I was really blessed with finding incredibly talented people, to run these different departments, all the different departments. And so much so that I was able to let them run with it. The art director, she was, I mean, just outstanding. And someone that I would just continue to work with till this day.
What's her name?
Well, her name is Penelope. She works on everything. She works on features, she works on television series, she works on commercials. Just someone, like one of the things that really impressed me, about her, and I would actually just give everyone advice, and, when you are looking for, whether it's art department or any of the departments, is that, and in her case in particular, is that she was able to make props herself. I mean, it was just astounding, what she could do. And I just find that for, she was just that kind of problem solver. And really, I think when you're looking for crew, when you're looking for partners, you need problem solvers, Steve. So that's always something that I'm looking for whenever I am crewing up or, just hiring or bringing people on my team, people that are creative problem solvers.
They can help take what you're trying to do and plus it in big ways.
Exactly.
So explain for the listeners the importance of casting. How critical is it?
It's crucial. It's critical. It's how important it is. It's the most important. It's the most important thing. And especially if you're, I mean, every aspect of it, but certainly, when you're directing it, as I did, the actors have to sell it. The actors have to sell it. It doesn't matter how brilliantly it's shot, how brilliantly it's written. The actors have to sell it.
One actor not in it can wreck the whole thing, can't they?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Especially in your leads. So that's, I mean, I'm asking a question, it's rhetorical in a sense that casting is pretty much 90% of everything. There's a lot of work that goes into getting you to where you're going, but if you don't cast well, you really have a problem.
Yeah.
Because they won't sell it. It won't sell. So
exactly. Yeah.
It makes a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference. I mean, the audience has to connect, right? The audience has to connect to the characters.
Absolutely.
And on a very deep emotional level. Even if they hate them, even if they don't like them, they have to understand what their motivations are, and these motivations are emotional.
Well, we're selling passion. We are selling emotion. We're not selling intellectuality. People don't go to movie theaters or watch TV shows in order to have a great academic exercise. They want to feel.
Correct. Absolutely.
All right. So once you were in production, did you find you needed to rework the scripts? I assume there were a series of scripts. So did you need to rework them while you were going, or were you pretty much set by the time you got into production?
Some episodes pretty much stayed the same, and then there were other episodes that had to be reworked for a variety of different reasons. Sometimes Steve, sometimes you get to set, and it's just not going to happen that day or that way. That way. I mean, I remember there was one day that I literally had 15 minutes. Well, this was I literally, there was an actor that I was dying to secure, and there was a scheduling, there was just a scheduling conflict, and at the last minute I was able to secure the actor. So I wanted to just add more lines. Now that I had the actor, I wanted to add more lines, and I literally remember I only had 15 minutes. I only had 15 minutes to write a scene. And before I had to leave to go to set, and send it to the actors. So I did that, and by the time that I got to set, the camera crew, they were assembling and the art department, they were assembling the set. So I was able to of course work with the actors and rehearse with them initially. And they had just gotten their lines for that particular scene. But they loved it, and it, it really works. So sometimes you're just writing. Sometimes you're writing on the fly. Sometimes you're writing on the fly, and sometimes they're just scenarios where it's just not going to work the way that you had initially envisioned it. Something in the set may not be working. Sometimes just the way that you wanted it lit is just not quite there. You just have to make changes. Sometimes you just have to make changes.
I always say that you prepare and prepare and prepare and prepare so that you can punt.
Yes.
So you make all these plans, and then God laughs at you because you've made plans, and then you hopefully have done your homework so that when the things that get messed up come your way, because they invariably do. Everybody on production has things not go right.
Absolutely.
You're able to make a pivot and make it work one way or another.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So producing and directing and production in general come with lots of built-in pressures. It's pressure packed, it's time pressure, and all kinds of different pressures. Do you have any special techniques that you use to deal with pressure? Do you have a way to unload or unpack your pressure somehow?
I meditate. I find that helps, but I mean, I don't meditate for hours. I will, and these are short meditations, 5, 10, 15 minutes at the most.
Mm-hmm.
But that, that helps just, and really the whole point for myself in terms of like meditating is quiet time, Steve, just some quiet time, with myself and my thoughts. That helps. Walks, taking walks, long walks. That's another way that I will work out the stress. Really for me, it's about being quiet, getting to those quiet moments.
Do you have a way to get there on set when it's all chaos?
When it's on set, I mean, sometimes you can escape, to your trailer. But on set, it's really about communicating with others. And again, this is like we're having a strong team, just a strong team behind you where you can articulate, just some of these stresses or just some of the issues. And this is where really having a team that are solvers, right? Problem solvers. This also helps to relieve some stress. If you have confidence in your team, that does help to relieve the stress. And you want to share. You want to share these stresses with with the inner circle on set.
So you've got your inner circle in your writing world and your inner circle on set, and you need them both, don't you?
Absolutely. You need them in life, Steve. You need your inner circle in life.
You got to have that inner circle. I agree with you. I mean, that's your family, your friends, whoever that is, that you can trust. It's a trust thing, so that you can turn to them and say pretty much anything and know that they're not going to look at you like you're completely out of your mind, though they may look at you, or they do in my case. They look at me frequently like I'm somewhat out of my mind. And then we go from there.
Exactly.
What is it you most enjoyed about directing?
My goodness. I mean, the entire process. I love the whole process, from the idea, from the kernel of the idea to ultimately producing something tangible, a finished episode, a finished film, short film, whatever it may be. I just love that entire process. But, well, I guess, the two things that I love the most, it's working with a really talented DP, and working with the actors. I mean, those are really two aspects of it.
And it helps to be a good communicator, doesn't it?
It's imperative. Yeah. I mean, I strongly suggest for any, directors, if you haven't done so, to take acting lessons, acting classes. It's
great advice.
I mean, you just need to really, you need to understand, first of all, how to communicate to the actors. You need to understand what their job is. You need to really have a great handle on that. And you need to, there needs to be a context of language. And that's why in taking these classes, you will learn all of that. At NYU as an undergrad, in fact, because my concentration was directing. Right in just in the curriculum, there were 2 acting classes that were mandatory acting for directors. It's that essential. It's just really that essential.
I agree with that entirely. And if you don't understand how actors act, it's almost impossible to direct them.
Absolutely. You have to have a really great handle on what the job is and how to communicate your vision to them in their language. So that's why that's really, critical. And then in addition to that, in terms of, some of my favorite aspects is post. I really do enjoy post, to actually see it all come together, with the editor and with the composers and the sound design. I really do enjoy that process as well.
The final rewrite, yes?
Correct. The
Post
final
is
rewrite.
the final rewrite. It's the last chance you get to kind of revise the storytelling if you want to.
Correct. And you want to be there. Yeah. You want to be part of that process.
Absolutely you do. All right. Let's talk for a moment about Writers Room 50/50. How'd that come? What is it and how did it come about?
Yes. And thank you for asking. I often tell people, Steve, that the Writers Room 50/50 is a company that I accidentally started. And I accidentally started it last year, last summer. And
that would have been summer of 2019.
Correct. The summer of 2019. And just to add more context for how the Writers Room 50/50 even came into being, just for myself, being a woman, being a Latina in the business, and I'm a staunch activist for underrepresented storytellers in the entertainment business. I am the co-chair of the Latino Writers Committee. I've held a leadership
of the Writers Guild.
The Writers Guild, correct. The Writers Guild of America West. I am the co-chair of the Latino Writers Committee. Mm-hmm. And I've held a leadership role at the Writers Guild like 6 or 7 years, I would say. But currently I am the co-chair. I'm in my 2nd term now, and just rigorous, extremely active there, and in terms of creating opportunities and advancement and prominence for Latinx writers in the business. So I'm extremely active there. I'm also currently at the Writers Guild as well. I am now a member of the Inclusion and Equity Group, which is another committee at the Writers Guild that just solely focused on inclusion and equity for all writers at the Guild. Yeah, and it really, it's for really for underrepresented.
What are a few of the major issues that are problematic and in need of addressing?
There's so many, but it's, Steve, it's about equal opportunity. It's about equal opportunity for everyone. The objective is to level the playing field. And it's about getting hired, Steve. It's about getting hired regardless of who you are. It's not just about hiring your friends. It's really about reaching out and hiring others that don't necessarily look like you, that also deserve a chance to establish their careers, grow in their careers. Obviously at the Writers Guild, these are writers with credits, but with underrepresented storytellers, there are bottlenecks. There are bottlenecks every, just every step along the way. Like, for instance, in terms of entry level, writers, underrepresented storytellers, they will repeat steps 3, 4, 5, 6 times before they will get the opportunity to be bumped up to the next level. So there's a bottleneck at in terms of entry level. Like, they certainly are getting in, but they're not necessarily moving up. So working as frequently, unfortunately, as white writers. So that is, that's an issue. And then there's also like the mid-level writers. For them, they also get stuck, at mid-level, like not getting the opportunities to move up, to move up the ladder, get to those, get to those producer levels, co-executive producer levels, the showrunner level. There's another bottleneck in the middle. So just very, very few get to the top. So the problems are just the opportunities. The opportunities are slimmer, and also just the support. I mean, mentorship. What's needed, Steve, is first of all, hire us. Hire us.
Sure, of course.
Mentor us to success. So this is a commitment of mentorship. It's not a one-time thing, right? This is like a marriage. You commit yourself to a writer. You mentor them to success so that they have the support that they need. Going back to the conversation that we just had about inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? These are trusted advisors, trusted people in your life. So everyone needs that. And everyone creative, anyone who is creative, I think, needs that tenfold. So it's, first of all, hire us, mentor, provide mentorship to success. And then when that writer when that writer is ready to be bumped up, bump them up so that they one day can be in a position to hire and mentor, and greenlight. So those are the issues. Those are the issues, Steve.
Do you know offhand what the percentage of working writers are people that need to be included? Whatever that's, whether people of color or whether it's people with disabilities or whatever it might be. Do you know what percentage of the Writers Guild is not being fulfilling on that end?
Yes. And there's studies that come out all the time, but in terms of the most recent study, which the Writers Guild released, I would say about 6 months ago, I would say, is in terms of writers in television, the most hired percentage of writers are white men, white men, and then after that, white women, and then and in terms of so the white men and white women, they make up around somewhere between 60 to 70% of the, they basically, they're working. They get hired.
They're making an income as a writer, which is not always easy
Correct.
to do for anybody.
Yes, exactly.
But you're saying there's 60 to 70% of those working writers are white men.
Right. White men and white women.
And white women.
But the largest group is white men. And then what's left is everyone else, like all the other underrepresented storytellers. So now we're talking about Black writers, Latinx writers, LGBTQ writers, women, just women in general, especially women of color are the least represented. Middle Eastern writers, Asian writers. So it's basically anyone who is not white is making up, let's just say 35% on average.
So all right. So what do you do with Writers Room 50/50? What is your purpose? What do you do?
So my purpose, again, as this staunch activist and someone who has mentored and someone who has taught all of that, to help underrepresented storytellers get to the next level. It's really about getting to the next level in your career.
Do you help them through contacts, or do you advise them, or what do you do?
It's mentorship. It's a great deal of it is training. Is pitching. Like there are a series of labs. There are different labs that are offered. So one is pitching the television series, where literally in 6 weeks you are writing that pitch script. You are pitching every single week and receiving feedback. You are designing your pitch deck, and then that literally ends with the writers pitching their series to an executive or a producer. So thus far, 10 projects which have been pitched have moved forward with executives. It's
how cool is that? And that's within 1 year or so of your founding this, and you've been dealing with COVID for the last 9 months, because we're having this conversation in October of 2020.
Exactly.
And so that's really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
So there are labs. Yeah, we're offering about 12 different, well, 11, no, it's about 12 different labs now. It's just incredible, Steve. As I said, I accidentally started a company. So pitching is a focus, pitching the television series, writing the television pilot, and that the process is my process, which we discussed a bit, earlier, really diving into story through character, and every single week, it's a rigorous process where the writers are just, every single week they are, I challenge them, I challenge them to write, present their materials, all of that. And so they're developing a pilot, and that leads to that lab at the end, leads to a table read with professional actors, literally reading 20 pages of everyone's script.
nice.
And and it's phenomenal experience, Steve, just incredible. So there are writing labs, there's a pitching lab, there is how to sell your series, because so many requests came in also, in addition to, okay, so now that we have the creative under our belt, right? How, what do we do? Like, what's the strategy? How do we develop a strategy, a winning strategy to sell, to sell our material? So that's a newer lab, which has just been incredibly successful. Writing the television show Bible, that's another lab. Writing the short film. We also have directing labs, directing prep intensive, directing shorts and proof of concepts, directing horrors. So it is a myriad of labs, and with all, it's just been so successful.
And is it tied into the WGA, or is it a separate entity entirely?
It's a separate entity entirely. In fact, it's a foundation. At the beginning of this year, I founded the foundation. Last year was the company started. There's a for-profit side and there's a nonprofit side, but I started a nonprofit foundation earlier this year so that I could take donations and develop all kinds of different programs. And in fact, we just launched our first fellowship, which is the BIPOC Writers Fellowship, adapting a book into a feature film screenplay. So I've partnered with a book publisher, Level 4 Press. They have over 300 books. And in the fellowship, 10 writers of color will literally be mentored from adapting one of their books into a screenplay, and then ultimately that screenplay is going to be taken to the marketplace to try to sell it.
You said BIPOC. What does that mean?
That means Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Mm-hmm. Got it. All right. So tell us how, if someone's interested in finding Writers Room 50/50, how do they find you?
Sure. Well, our website is writersroom5050.com, and
that's too easy. It's just like it sounds. Exactly. Writersroom5050.com. Evette, we've been speaking for over an hour, if you can believe that.
Oh my goodness.
And we're going to slowly wind this thing down a little bit. I'm just curious, in all of your experiences, do you have a story or two that is either quirky, weird, strange, offbeat, or just plain funny that you can share with us?
Steve, there are so many, but I'm going to go with the first.
It's show business. There better be a few.
Yes, exactly. And maybe some stories not so funny, but
yeah, there are those too, aren't there?
Exactly. But I'm going to go with the first story that came to mind. And literally, this was when I was a film student at NYU, my undergrad. And I was literally in the process of producing my senior thesis film, which, by the way, ended up winning the best of NYU. It got me a lot of buzz, and that's what got me out to LA. But while I was in the process of producing this, and I wrote, directed it, and produced it, I was also working at the time at an advertising agency in New York. Again, utilizing all of my art skills and my writing skills. I worked in the advertising industry in New York, and in the building, in the ad agency building, there was a post-production company there. But anyway, so here I am after school. I would work in the evenings, and I had a car, at the time, and parking, legally on the street. I had to wait till 6 p.m. to legally park my car. So as I was sitting in my car right outside of the ad agency or the building, and waiting for 6 p.m., who actually exits the building and I lock eyes with was Bill Murray, the actor.
Right.
Yes. So we completely locked eyes. I smiled at him. He smiled at me. There was just this connection, and we locked eyes as he walked out of the building, crossed in front of my car, and then jumped into a car service that just whisked him away. And it was just it was as if time stopped, Steve. I just knew at that moment. Yes, yes. I just knew that Bill was going to play a role. He was just going to play a role in my life. So I was just obsessed in being able to communicate with him, and tell him that, somehow, and tell him what I was working on. So I just assumed that he basically had some business at this post-production company, because besides the ad agency and the post-production company, none of the other companies in that building were creative. So I just assumed that he had some dealings with the post-production company. So, and Mad River Post actually was the name of the post-production company. So I basically just made my way into the post-production company, introduced myself to the receptionist, and said, and basically just asked the receptionist, are you working with Bill Murray? I just saw him leaving the building. And the receptionist confirmed it. It's like, yeah, we have a project with him. And then I basically unloaded and told this poor receptionist my life, that I'm a film student at NYU. I am working on my senior thesis film. And I would just, be overjoyed, if Bill would play a role in my senior thesis film. I would love to just share that with him. So basically the receptionist said, well, he will definitely be back. If you want to drop a package off for him. And by the way, so this was a Friday when all of that happened. Over the weekend, I created this amazing package for Bill. I have the art skills. I mean, it was like this gorgeous, literally a package with my script, everything about myself, the vision, what I would love for him to do, the role, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Monday, when I went to work at the ad agency, I made the stop over at Mad River Post, the production company. I gave the package to the receptionist, who was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." And I was like, "Well, look, I mean, even if he says no, I just want to get this to him." So lo and behold, Wednesday rolls around, and I was just dying. I was on pins and needles. I just, Steve, I mean, if nothing else, I wanted to know that he got the package.
Sure, of course.
So I called, and I was at work. I was at the ad agency Wednesday evening, and I called the post-production company, and the receptionist picked up because, first of all, in New York, everybody works 24/7. Everything's open. And, certainly, editors work all kinds of hours. So everyone was there. I must have called around maybe 7 p.m. and everyone was there. So the receptionist, I basically asked the receptionist, hey, and I basically said, hey, this is Evette Vargas. I just wanted to confirm that, Bill Murray received my package. And the receptionist said, well, he certainly knows of it. He actually had to go to Paris for something, but he certainly knows of it. And I was like, okay, well, that's great. When will he be back? And basically then the receptionist said, hold on, let me put you through to his editor. So the receptionist ended up patching me through to Bill's editor. She was the assistant editor at the time on the project that Bill was working on, and her name was Anna Paula. This incredible, beautiful Portuguese, woman who we've become the dearest of friends, now. So anyway, so Anna was actually the one who ended up opening the package because since she was working with Bill and Bill was in Paris, he had asked Anna to open the package and read it to him and just tell him what was in it. So Anna knew the gist, and certainly Bill, Bill knew what was up. And Anna was just like incredibly impressed. And she said that, as was Bill, and that Bill wants to meet with me by the end of the week. If I was available. I'm like, yes, absolutely. I am available.
And if you weren't, you'd make yourself so.
Oh my God. Yes. I would move mountains to meet with Bill. So that was just incredible. And then Friday rolled around. And while I was at work, I received a call from Anna, and who then patched me through to Bill. And so here I am speaking to Bill on the phone.
Ooh, wow.
And basically, Bill, the first thing that Bill said was like, that was some package. And then he invited me to come downstairs to the post-production company, which I did. And then I met with Bill. That was when I met Anna for the first time, and other folks there, and everyone was just smiling. I mean, it was like this beautiful parting of the Red Sea with just glowing faces. I mean, Steve, I just had impressed everyone. It was like everyone was touched. Everyone was touched by this scenario. And basically Bill, Bill ended up becoming a mentor. Bill ended up giving me money. He gave me money for the short film.
Wow.
He couldn't be in it because scheduling wise, when I was shooting it, he just, he was out of the country. He was going to be out of the country for some time. But he became a mentor, and he helped me fund that short film.
Wow, how cool is that?
Yes,
Exactly. Because he's notoriously impossible to get to. So for you to get to him is a huge deal.
It was a huge deal. I didn't know notoriously how impossible he was to get with until after the fact. He has, basically he has this attorney that is the gatekeeper, who basically,
I mean, the legend is that, to get a message to Bill Murray is a very challenging thing to do. So Absolutely. The fact that you did that is exceptional. Well, good on you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. All right. I think that's a great story. Last question for you today, Evette. Do you have a solid piece of advice or a tip that you can lend to those who are trying to break in, or maybe they're in a little bit and trying to get to the next step? You've already given us a whole bunch, but do you have one more?
Yes. Absolutely. Well, first of all, if you're a writer, if you're a director, if you're a producer, any creative discipline that's involved, you want to master your craft as best as you can. I mean, certainly nothing can be fully mastered. I mean, as a writer, and Steve, I'm sure you will agree, every single project is different. It has its own set of complications.
oh yes. You're always starting from scratch.
You're always starting from scratch. But practice your craft, and you need a sample of your work that helps you shine. So if you're a writer, write every day, and write a sample, first of all, that is personal, that reflects your personal story, reflects who you are. How writers get hired, or most of the time, how writers get hired, especially in television, on series, is that their personal experience is a match for the content, the narrative of a show. Mm-hmm. So for instance, if you if you have a criminal justice background and there's a series that is steeped in criminal justice, you know what? Chances are that could make you a coveted candidate for that show, because you have lived that, know that, sure. And you will bring those kinds of rich nuances and real authentic details to that story. So number one, your personal story is a match for a piece of content, and and in television, a show. So your writing sample needs to reflect your personal story for two reasons. Number one, it proves that you have lived the life that you're saying that you lived. Number one. And number two, it proves that you can write it. You can write that experience.
Sure.
So that's why for any emerging writers, and also writers that are trying to get to the next level, you want to write something personal that reflects your personal story. Whether it was a job that you had, whether it was an experience, something that happened while you were growing up. It can be anything, but it was something that was critical in the molding of your identity, and the molding of your point of view, the molding of your voice, and therefore it's part of your personal story. And your writing sample needs to reflect that. So the number one advice is practice your craft, write something personal, and make sure that it reflects your personal story. So number two is find a great mentor. Absolutely, everyone needs mentorship. It's such a tricky business. And it's complicated. There's no rule book. There's no rule book about this particular business. Everyone finds and makes their own way. So you need mentorship to help you navigate the waters and the situations. Because you learn how the business works by becoming an insider. And when you're not the insider, you need someone on the inside that can help you navigate those waters.
No question.
So just really find a dedicated mentor that will help you navigate those waters, and can also, hopefully, once you have this writing sample or reel, if you're a director or a producer, something that's produced that you're really proud of, really something that really strongly reflects your talent, that and the mentor may actually also be able to open doors for you, to make the coveted referral, because that's it's a business of referrals, because everyone needs to be vetted in this particular business, and you get the referral, that's the instant vet, which also helps get you to the next level.
Well, there's no easier way to get in than to have someone who's already in bring you in some way, refer you in, drag you in, whatever it is. That's the easiest way into the business. That's the easiest, not necessarily easy, because you've got to get to that person and have them admire what you do.
Exactly. But this is the thing, you need to be ready to capitalize on that opportunity. So that's why you need to practice your craft. You need the mentorship to also help you navigate the waters. You need to be ready. Any opportunity that comes, you need to be ready to capitalize on it. Otherwise, it's a missed opportunity, and that opportunity may never come around again. And I'm just being, just full disclosure, it's just the truth. If you're not ready to capitalize, that door that was open to you may not be open to you. It's just the reality of the business.
There's nothing like a presented opportunity, and you have to be very prepared and ready to go when that opportunity comes along. There's no question about that. So yeah, Evette Vargas, this has been just a spectacular, hour and 15 minutes or so about the business and what you do. And I just can't thank you enough for coming on the show today, because it's been so many great eye-opening things that you're talking about, and how to get into the business, how to be in the business, how to write, how to produce and direct. Fantastic stuff.
Excellent. Thank you. I mean, Steve, thank you again for having me. It's just been an honor. It feels, Steve, as if time hasn't passed since we were grad students at UCLA, and just thrilled, to see how well you're doing. And yeah,
I wish my face showed that time hadn't passed.
Mine too, Steve. Mine too. Trying, working on that every day. That's like another craft to master is time, right?
And staying young. Don't ever get old. That's for sure. Stay young. Evette, thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
And so we've come to the end of today's Story Beat. If you like this podcast, please take a moment to give us a rating or review on whatever app or platform you're listening to. Your support helps us bring more great StoryBeat episodes to you. Until next time, I'm Steve Cuden, and may all your stories be unforgettable.